Operation Epic Fury has been declared concluded, and it is, and now we're into a new project, and that is to get the Strait of Hormuz open. This is about diplomacy and negotiation. You don't have kinetic warfare right now. You don't have missiles flying around, and so we've got to allow the administration time to finish this and sort it out.
Yeah, the clock is ticking for Iran to negotiate a deal, and sources confirmed to Fox News that President Trump may restart military action. And hello, everybody, and welcome to the final hour of tonight's big weekend show. President Trump is warning Iran that time is running out to make a deal, following a phone call between the president and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Military options are on the table, while the next wave of attack will reportedly be far more aggressive. They could come as early as tomorrow. Joining us now is Mike Sarraille. He's a Marine, a retired Navy SEAL, and I changed the order here, and host of the Unsung of Arlington on Fox Nation. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, sir. I consider you a friend. We spent some time together here and there, doing great stuff, by the way, with Fox Nation. A couple things you have coming down the pipe, and just proud of you for telling the stories that need to be told. When we look at Iran, we talk about the stories that need to be told. You and I fought that 20-year war, those 10 two-year wars, as I like to say. We worry about making the mistakes of the past. We also see what's happening and see how it's different. What's your take?
Yeah, I think to compare it to Iraq is like apples and oranges, just two completely different scenarios. What we see here in the 39-day ceasefire is, guys, we are doing target refinement, ISR pattern building, cyber attacks. We are in a better position, and Iran is behind the power curve. Additionally, during those 39 days, Iran is communicating, they're moving, they're repairing, they're hiding, and they're really exposing critical nodes that we didn't know before. So we are stepping into a different situation if we restart attacks with the blockade in place, further economic strangulation. What's going to be interesting here, and here are the two things I'm interested to see. If we restart attacks, is it going to be a coalition-led attack, meaning are the Gulf states going to get involved, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar to a greater extent? We know UAE just had a nuclear plant hit. And then second, are we going to conduct the systematic elimination of the IRGC oppression mechanism known as the Bajij? Are we going to go after them? Because if we do, and you remove or eradicate or degrade the Bajij, that probability of the Iranian people stepping up to take back their country increases.
I was going to ask you something else. Now I want to ask you something a little different. So bear with me. I might have two questions for you. You intrigued me with that, though. So I don't disagree that that would be something that would need to happen for the Iranian people to rise up and be able to take back their country and restore it to what it once was. This Persia, this idea that it could return to that is so aspirational. But we've seen this play out before when you have a power vacuum, and then you've got a worse element that comes in. I don't know if there is worse than the IRGC and the Ayatollahs and all of that, but do you have any concerns about that? If we were to take that additional step, could it end worse?
And you're referring to Afghanistan, Iraq,
Libya.
Sometimes we go with the theory of the devil you know is worse or better than the devil you don't. With Iran, I don't think that is the case. I think with the Persian people, and you want to keep the Iranian military, not the IRGC, but the traditional Iranian military in place and intact. One of the biggest mistakes we made in Iraq was we got rid of the Ba'athist military.
Yeah, we were almost too good.
Too good. And it turned out to be a strategic miscalculation, which left no internal security and then a vacuum for terrorism to come in.
As we wrap up the Iran topic, I want to ask my second question before I move on to Cuba. I want to ask about some reports of taking Karg Island, also having operators go in and remove the nuclear materials if Iran doesn't want to make a deal. Good idea, bad idea? How does that shake out?
Well, I call Karg the scoreboard that we've been keeping a close eye on. So is there a probability that Special Operations, the Marines, the 82nd Airborne take Karg Island? Yes, that possibility is high. The nuclear material? No. That won't be the priority right now. It's the degradation of the regime, because that will stay in place. That's going to be an excavation project. Let's handle that first. And if we can get this regime to either play ball or fall, then we can go back to the nuclear.
Taking Karg Island, not a problem. Being a target on Karg Island is a problem. It's resource heavy, defending it.
Mike, I want to turn to Cuba now. Protesters there are taking to the streets while fuel shortages trigger blackouts. CIA Director John Ratcliffe met with senior Cuban officials to discuss possible U.S. support, but only if the communist country makes fundamental changes. President Trump is confident they will come around.
Is Cuba going to turn to us and make a deal?
I think so. I mean, look, I've been hearing about Cuba since I'm a little boy. They've been saying, what's going on with Cuba? And I think we'll be turning it. Marco's been very effective, and the whole group has been very effective. It's, I think they're going to have to come to us. It's a failed nation. It's a totally failed nation.
And they're taking the aid now.
Yeah, they're taking the aid. They want aid. They need help.
But Axios is reporting that Cuba has acquired more than 300 military drones and is discussing plans to use them to attack U.S. bases and assets if a conflict breaks out. So, Mike, given that, which scenario is true here? Are they going to take the aid? Are they going to make the fundamental changes? Or are they planning an attack on the U.S.?
So I've got to say this first. We didn't send the State Department. We sent the CIA. And if that's not symbolic, 60 plus years after the Bay of Pigs, that was a very strategic message by President Trump. So the drones are concerning one sourced by both Russia and Iran. Would Cuba make the fundamental mistake of attacking the United States? It would be their doom. I think ultimately, too, we're bringing law warfare into this scenario with Raul Castro and the downing of an American plane where 4 Americans were killed. If he doesn't need a better example, it's called Maduro. We can't find you. We'll come in and get you.
Yep.
But, for Cuba, what Trump has done is put them into a position where this regime can fall without a shot fired. We saw Maduro and Venezuela go down. Now Iran, another source of financing and material support for Cuba. They are isolated. The best scenario for them is to play ball or they will lose this regime, period.
Mike, first of all, thank you for your service. This is a patriotic time, and thank you for stepping up and serving our country. But the second thing is you've got this a new season coming up on Fox Nation of Unsung of Arlington. Tell us about it. What will we see this year?
Yeah, this is season 2.
Yeah.
So I was thrilled to hear it was renewed. I've got to give a thank you to Fox Nation and Fox News. There is no other news network. I'll tell you, Joey and I know what station was playing overseas. It was Fox. You guys have always been committed to veterans and the military causes and our fallen. So thank you for that.
Navy Seal set TVs.
So, this exists to remind Americans that real people with real names, real families, gave their tomorrow for our today. And those names matter. I remember we were at dinner 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I barely remember that part, but you mentioned 2 names.
Yeah.
Greer and Holly.
That's right.
2 of your teammates.
Floyd and Daniel. Yeah.
I remember those names. They mattered to him. They mattered to me. They should have mattered to the American people. The thing about Arlington is it's not just a cemetery. I say it's America's ledger for freedom. And each of those headstones are a receipt that was paid for freedom. That is a little uncomfortable to think about. But as you hear these stories of these amazing men and women that we cover, they're inspirational. And the greatest thing we can do is, the greatest monument is not a marble headstone. It's actually turning inspiration into action. They believed in this country and what we could be and what we can be. It just takes all of us to commit to that. And so this is an inspirational, motivational piece to remember our fallen and hopefully get the American people to say, what more can I do for my country, my community, my family, my company, to put us in a better place. So very humbled at the fact that I got to participate in a small way in this series.
I'm so excited about it, man. I haven't seen the first season. Full disclosure, didn't know about it. I'm going to go watch it. I'm going to post about it. I'm sure you got some stuff from Section 60, our section down there, from our generation, but then the whole place. And, those marble tombstones that you talk about, that's what makes the whole place so solemn, is that no matter who you were, no matter your rank, no matter the award that you received, it's that same grave marker. And it's so humble, and it's the humility of it that makes it stick. If you can't make it to Arlington, there's national cemeteries all over the country with the same tombstones. Brother, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you all.
United States Marine. Also did a little Navy SEAL stuff. But listen, that's season 2 of The Unsung of Arlington. Streams exclusively on Fox Nation starting tomorrow. Let's check it out. I'll watch it with you tomorrow. Guys, Mike's going on to do greater things. He stopped by to see us, had some great answers. Tommy, I'll go to you first. You can pick any of the topics. He had a lot to say about Iran. I love the point he made about they sent the CIA to Cuba. And then, of course, Arlington National Cemetery.
There's so much there. First of all, I want to say with the unsung at Arlington, beautiful. and I want to go watch it as well. Fox Nation has such a wonderful library of military and veteran appreciation shows. Everyone go check out Fox Nation. I guess I want to go back to Iran, because a lot of the stuff that he said, we've been mulling over this for the last few weeks. We've had the ceasefire, and some of the things that he said to me was new information or new analysis, which I really appreciated. And I think I have renewed hope, right, that the end of this could be brighter than we could even imagine.
Yeah, Jason, I think, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but to kind of summarize what he said, which makes sense to me, is when I look at Iran, we've taken largely their ability to attack outside Iran away. We really haven't disturbed their ability to rule Iran, their actual boots on the ground military. And he made a distinction between essentially what is the RGC and their kind of heavy hand and the regular military. If you add it all together with their version of reserves, I think it's like a 1 million-man army. So it's not a small thing. And his idea, which we didn't do in Iraq, which is basically leave a power structure there and humble it so you can work with it. And that makes more sense to me.
It's a tough equation. Look, you got 90 million people there in Iran. For the last 47, 48 years, they've only heard and listened to death to America. They don't necessarily know how to live in the first world and be a responsible country. And so how do you do that without ultimately going in there and being the nation builder? I think President Trump has found the right balance, that we had to take out the threat. But at the same time, we also need them to stop firing on everybody and stop. I mean, they fire on their neighbors. They want to fire on us, and certainly Israel. So his perspective, I think, is spot on. It comes with experience.
Anita, I have to believe there's a battle plan that's pulled out, dusted off, and looked at every couple of years for Cuba. It's so close. It's small. The idea that we could do what we needed to there isn't really a question. But the idea that he called it lawfare, that's fair. But this, going in and saying, listen, we could put this old man in jail, or you could exile yourself and we could get rid of this problem. It feels like that's what they're trying to say.
Well, I mean, he gave a good example of look what happened to Maduro, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that could easily happen to the president of Cuba. And they are in dire straits there. I mean, they have, blackouts. They have no fuel. The people are hungry. There's lines for everything. They have every incentive to take this deal from President Trump, take the humanitarian aid, and, cooperate and not be an enemy of the United States. But we're going to see what happens. Nothing is done until it's done.
Tommy, the hard and fact truth of it is, if Cuba never aligns with Soviet Union or even China eventually, if they never align with that, and we don't have the 13 days crisis where we think there are nukes, or pretty much knew there were nukes in Cuba, chances are we don't care near as much. It's not that we're evil people, but in other words, when we talk about regime change, it's completely different than changing the regime's perspective. And I always say that Trump doesn't care who's in charge of the country, he just cares that they fear us more than our enemies. And so when we look at Cuba, there's got to be a class of people that are empowered by the way that government runs, just like Iran. And to think those people are going away quietly isn't exactly common sense. So, what happened in Venezuela? It's Maduro's right-hand woman who's now in charge. It's just, will they be more friendly to us? Not necessarily. I don't know if things changed in Venezuela for Venezuelans. I don't know that Cuba is going to completely change.
Well, I'll say Cuba and Venezuela are very different animals to Iran. Their perspective, what motivates them, so different. That's why I see much more success, not only what we're seeing in Venezuela, but also in Cuba. I have to know because my husband is Cuban and his parents are from Cuba.
Yeah.
And there are so many patriotic Cuban Americans, right? We have to remember how close we are to Cuba, by the way. I do think that they have a real opportunity, but it's not like Iran where you're trying to change their religion, their ideology. I believe their people are so close to us and freedom loving and freedom wanting. I see real promise for the Cuban people. And if you look at the Venezuelan people, similar to a lot of the Iranian Americans, they celebrated when we took out Maduro.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Cuban Americans and a lot of Cubans that would celebrate if they could see something different.
I campaigned with Marco Rubio in 2015 in Florida. And it's real, it's palatable. I saw it. The patriotism, but also the belief. I mean, there are people that are still alive that exiled from Cuba, and they still believe that their family can return, that they can be reunited with a Cuba that isn't under a dictatorship, and it feels within reach.
Yeah, and addressing the wet foot, dry foot policy and figuring out how to make them, again, they're so close, 90 miles off the coast of of our country. Marco Rubio knows this inside and out. I've been to Cuba. I mean, it is locked in the 1950s. The people, when you get out in the countryside, they're lovely, they're wonderful. They don't hate America.
No.
But their leadership has got to change because they're so oppressed. It's sad to see it playing out.
Be interesting. The president can walk and chew gum at the same time. He's got Cuba, Nigeria, what's happening in Iran, Venezuela's still going. World maybe becoming
China.
a better place. Yeah, just visited China.
What about Greenland? You forgot Greenland.
Yeah, well, Greenland, they can't get their stuff together up there. They got to figure it out.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.